I felt like a failure much of my adult life. Nearly 30 years old and still living at home. I don't hold jobs long, and when I'm in them, they don't pay anything a lone man can survive on anyways. If you want your own property up here, you best be married. And seeing as to how I ain't had a relationship that lasted, that's been out of the question for me. But I see now that I've been blessed. Had I accomplished my dream of independence from my parents, I would have had to do something truly awful to keep it alive. So I ain't gonna whine about being a failure anymore. I'd gone into town yesterday morning to buy some supplies. This is a small town, and if you go through enough of them, you'll find that they don't always have a police force. But we do. It ain't anything substantial, just a handful of good old boys wearing badges. As I was loading up and getting back in my truck, I noticed Chief Collins approaching me. "How you doing, son?" he asked. I figured it was best he didn't see what I'd just purchased, so I just closed the door and stood outside the truck with him. "Not bad, sir," I said. "Good. All quiet up on the mountain?" Now, Chief Collins ain't living at home with his parents like me. He's married with kids and has a decent-sized house. He's definitely giving kids to the Mundays, and based off his prominent position in the community, I'm gonna guess he gave them 3. "Actually," I began, "not really." "Oh?" "Heard quite the fuss coming from the Keller house last night." "The Kellers ain't too close to your place. You heard them all the way from up there?" "Well, them boys were mighty loud, and you know how noise carries out there." "Which boys you talking about?" "The Keller boys. The children." Chief Collins pinched his mustache and gave a shit-eating grin. "The Kellers don't have any children." It was obvious this fucker was lying, as I knew for a fact he coached them boys in baseball. So I played along. "You sure?" "Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else." "Oh, I'm positive. The Kellers ain't ever had any kids. At least not yet." He laughed. I shrugged. "Well, all right then. I better head on home. Good seeing you." Chief Collins waved as I pulled away, and in the mirror I watched as his smile promptly faded. Dad was waiting for me at home. All our guns were laid across the kitchen table. 2 Remington 870 shotguns, 2 Ruger hunting rifles, and several different pistols and revolvers. "You get the stuff?" he asked. I set several bags containing ammunition, flares, batteries, zip ties, and more beside the table. Told the fella working the counter that all the recent UFO news had gotten us worried. "You think he believed you?" Dad chuckled. He agreed that they were cause for concern. Dad loaded another pistol. "Your mother called. She said she made it that safe. She see it?" He nodded. We told her to head out of town and stay at a church for the night. The idea being that if this supernatural force truly was connected to the devil, she'd be safe in a church that isn't controlled by the Mundays. We knew it was a slim chance. "She don't want it to deter us, though," Dad said as he loaded another pistol. I stepped over to the table to help load the remaining guns, and Dad placed a hand on my shoulder. "Son," he said, "many years ago, your mother and I did something we're deeply ashamed of just to keep you with us. I don't want to lose you, but if I do, at least it's while doing what's right." Dad slapped the magazine into the pistol and chambered a round. "And you damn sure won't be going down alone. Or without a fight." Dad placed the last pistol on the table with all the other guns, knives, and tactical gear. "There's gonna be a fight?" I laughed and gave him a hug. I told him I loved him. We were gonna be entering hell after midnight, and I couldn't think of a better man to do it with. We'd heard it was gonna rain through the night, and prayed that the Mondays weren't the type to wait out a storm. We were banking on them heading down the mountain at 1 a.m., otherwise we'd have to wait another day. And we didn't know if we had that kind of time. Luckily, the rain wasn't overly heavy, enough to get you wet without feeling like you're swimming. We watched from the windows as the Mondays walked past the house. Once they were out of sight, we exited the house armed like a damn backwoods SEAL team. We each carried a shotgun and a rifle, with pistols attached to our waists and extras in our backpacks. We both wore headlamps, which we kept off until reaching the Monday house. Once on the property, we weaved around the ever-growing collection of junk and made it to the front entrance, which was still unlocked. We stepped into the creaking old hallway, the odor of rotten meat just as pungent as before. Water from the strengthening storm dripped down the various cracks in the walls and the ceiling. The buzzing of flies grew louder as we traveled further down the hall. Then, without warning, the rear door at the end of the hall crashed open. A male Monday charged through without pause. My dad, who had insisted on taking lead out of what he felt was his parental duty, managed to fire off a single shot from his Remington 870 as he was knocked to the floor. I took aim and fired, but I'd also been hit from behind. My shot went high and into the ceiling. The gun fell from my hands. The second I collided with the ground, I began to be dragged by my ankles back the way we came in. I clawed at the floor, trying not to lose sight of my dad. He was fighting from his back. The Monday he was struggling with appeared to be bleeding from the shoulder. Not that it made any difference. I watched as the Monday tossed my dad's shotgun and dragged him by his beard over to the padlocked door. Dad drew his pistol from his waist as I was pulled outside into the mud. Several shots rang out from inside, but not a full clip. The Monday had stopped him. I pulled my own pistol and quickly rolled over to fire. Immediately, my wrists were pinned to the ground above my head. My attacker was mounted on top of me. I was now face to face with a Monday. He leaned in close. The smell of rancid meat was present as he breathed on me. He seemed to be enjoying it, like a baby playing with a toy, and with a toothless smile to match. "Keep holding them still, Bubba," a familiar voice said from nearby. Suddenly, a flashlight shined in my eyes, and I felt someone take my pistol. Then they proceeded to frisk me and remove the rest of my weapons. "Boy, you done it now," said Chief Collins as he angled the light away from my eyes. "Let me go." Chief Collins laughed. "What do you think, Sarah?" The old lady stepped into sight, her long, thin hair wet against her old, witchy face. She got real close to me, leaned over, and said,
"They're expecting you."